Blog Talk Radio.
Down to sleep, lay me down. I pray my soul is mine to keep. My soul can never step outside this bed, never into all the evil. Now back from the dead.
Are you scared?
He's here.
The calling hours.
When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk here.
They will say that I have shed innocent blood. What's blood for, if not for shedding?
Society Radio. Once again, it is I, your head undertaker, the dead man Michael Jones of HorrorSociety.com and Living Dead Magazine. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? We are creeping closer and closer to Halloween. And as you know, this month on the Calling Hours Horror Podcast, we are featuring the films that comprise the After Dark Horrorfest 8 Films to Die For. And on this episode, we are covering director J. Alaimo's The Wicked Within. On to discuss the film, we will have associate producer and actor William Macnamara, known for opera. That's right, Dario Argento's opera. Nightmares and Dreamscapes from the stories of Stephen King, and Cut. We will also have producer-actor Gianni Capaldi. IMDb has him listed for Alien Express, even though when I spoke to him earlier there's some dispute over that. We will certainly ask him about that. Also, The Devil's Dozen and the upcoming Bite. And we will also be joined by actor Heath Freeman. You've seen him on NCIS, Bones, and Dark Was the Night. In our digital dismemberment reviews for the evening, we will be covering Scream Factory's Blu-ray release of Gravy and SGL Entertainment's DVD release of Hellweek. Just to let you know about Hellweek, there are two versions of the film, and they're pretty distinct. They pretty much tell the same story, but there are definitely some key scene differences and appearance differences between the two films. In particular, I will be covering the Grindhouse bootleg edition, but we will be talking about the regular edition as well. And that comes from our friends that did Scarred, Eddie Fright, and Don Kilrain. So be prepared for that. In our in our Metal Massacre Spotlight for the evening, we are going to be featuring Metal Blade recording artist DragonForce and songs from their most recent CD, Maximum Overload. In fact, let's get into that right now. It's astonishing to realize that DragonForce now have a history going back 15 years. and that they have released their 6th album. But such is the pace at which music and life move these days that what was seemingly a highly promising young British metal band just yesterday are now an established full force on the scene. In fact, their reputation is such that anything new from this lot is regarded as a landmark moment in the ongoing story of metal. But the most recent DragonForce album is a revelation, one that will surely entice them to another level of achievement. The CD is called Maximum Overload, and that's precisely what you get from the 10 tracks on this main album, plus the 5 bonus songs for the special edition and a DVD. We have our own style and sound, says Herman Lee, who founded the band in 1999 with fellow guitarist Sam Totman. And we didn't want to move away from that. Once you've got your trademark approach in place, that's what fans come to expect from you. But we also wanted to challenge ourselves. We didn't want to rehash what we had done before, but take it all in a fresh direction. So for the first time in their history, DragonForce worked with an outside producer. The man in question is the celebrated Jens Bogren, who had previously worked with Opeth, Catatonia, Devin Townsend, and Paradise Lost, among many others. So, without further ado, the first song in our Metal Massacre Spotlight comes from the band DragonForce, from their most recent CD, Maximum Overload. The name of the song is Tomorrow's Kings. welcome back. You just heard DragonForce from the most recent CD, Maximum Overload. The name of the song was Tomorrow's Kings. Make sure to stay tuned throughout the rest of the show. We will be featuring DragonForce 2 more times in our Metal Massacre Spotlight. In about 19 minutes, we are going to go into our feature interview with the great people from The Wicked Within. We will have producer-actor William Macnamara, producer-actor Gianni Capaldi, and actor Heath Freeman. But before that, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for some digital dismemberment.
Digital dismemberment.
And in our first digital dismemberment spotlight for the evening, we are going to be covering SGL Entertainment's DVD release of Hellweek. And I found this to be a very interesting film. A lot of people will argue points on this, but we're definitely going to get into it here. It was written and directed by Eddie Freit, who, of course, as you guys know, did Scarred, a.k.a. Candyland, and Don Kilrain was involved with this project as well. It's funny, when you look on the internet and you read about this film a little bit, it's very cut or dry on how people feel about it. This is definitely a micro-budget film, and that's the first thing to keep in mind. You're not watching a Spielberg film or anything like that, and that's not an insult to this film whatsoever. In fact, it should be said, especially for young filmmakers looking to make films and see what the process is, this is the perfect example of a film that you should watch because there are two versions of this film. Eddie was kind enough to send me the Grindhouse bootleg edition and then the regular edition that was released to mainstream public. And there are very much differences between the two films. Now, they both tell the same story, but there are quite a few, I wouldn't even say subtle, there are several very different versions of how everything comes to be in this film and how the character development goes. It really does change your view on the characters in the film depending on which version that you watch. A little bit of background info. Rush Week is just not going to be the same this year. The urban legend surrounding the Rake family warehouse has intrigued college students for decades. This year's fraternity president, JJ, played by Rob Yeager, has a hazing ritual planned for his pledges. Little does he know the truth behind the myth is more real than they could have ever imagined. Most people look at the film and initially think Texas Chainsaw Massacre, House of a Thousand Corpses style. And that's, while you see those elements while you're watching the film, I think the film is a little bit more original than that. People will obviously point to, the characters in masks. They'll point to one of the characters' name being Grandpa, the use of a chainsaw, it's a blatant ripoff of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. No, it's not. I mean, you could say that about any film that has a chainsaw in it where people are getting brutally massacred. So get that thought out of your mind. People will ask me straight out the gate, which version did I prefer? I think in the regular cut of the film, you get a little bit more character development. You feel a little bit more empathy towards the characters. There's a little bit more build. Whether you love them or hate them, I think you get more of a character build. In the Grindhouse bootleg edition, I think you dislike the characters a little bit more, but I don't think that that's a bad thing. It kind of adds to the whole mystery of the film. in particular, basically you have this college fraternity, and it's Halloween, and they want to do something for their new pledges. And there's this urban legend, this rumor about terrible things that happen in a place called the Rake family warehouse. And so this guy, JJ, sets up this whole thing to go take the pledges there to scare the shit out of them. Well, before that happens, there's a big frat party that he throws. His girlfriend is there, her roommate, and one of her friends from back home come for this party. And, you see a lot of the everyday, regular college frat boy type behavior, loose women, drugs, drinking, the whole college thing. And I think that part is brought across very well. Living out near several universities, I see that frat boy mentality all the time, and I think Eddie really brought that element out in his characters. Well, they take some of the frat boys, they go out there, and they run into this demented masked family who owns the warehouse, but nobody knows that they're there. And there are various scenes of the college kids getting chainsawed in half and being viciously beaten and abused. Very, very grimy type things going on there. And for the most part, a lot of the effects are practical. There are a few digital effects, and I will say this. For being a first-time film, I think Eddie did a really good job blending the digital effects with the practical effects. So things go bad. JJ and his buddy don't make it back to the frat house. So one of the frat brothers goes to the girlfriend's house and tells them that they have not been found. So after some arguing amongst the girls, they go out there to find JJ and the pledges. Well, of course, they're being held by the demented family. It's an interesting dynamic within that family. They managed to turn one of the frat boys into, quote-unquote, one of them, and he goes about dispatching of some of the other frat members in various disturbing ways. So everyone winds up being captured, with the exception of the one friend who had come from out of state. She's sitting in the car waiting for all of them. And JJ and three of the others are given an opportunity to escape, and if they can escape, they survive the night. Well, they're chased throughout this virtual, quote-unquote, fun house, and some of the other family members are truly disturbing. There's one gentleman in a clown mask that plays the banjo while he's chasing after one of the girls, and it's actually very creepy. The mask, just how physically big the character is, and the banjo playing all at the same time. There are a couple of really interesting. Robin Griggs is in the film as I guess you could call her one of the family members. It's never really 100% said if she's a family member or a frat girl that was left behind from a previous time. But she plays a really demented, you could almost see that Harley Quinn-esque style about her laugh and her giggle. In fact, it even reminds you of Baby from House of a Thousand Corpses. There's another one in particular, and I just thought she was an absolute cutie. Eddie and I had talked about her, and that was the skate girl down in the basement. Her character is really developed a little bit more in the regular release edition of the film. She's definitely a batshit crazy person, but man, she can do things with a knife, let me tell you. So there's the whole aspect of trying to escape, and almost everybody is off. Now, depending on which version of the film you watch, there are two entirely separate endings for the film, and I'm not going to give away the ending of the film because I definitely want you to check it out. My preference, again, is the Grindhouse version because I feel like it's a little bit more gritty. I feel like it's a little bit more sadistic, in my opinion. It's definitely shot like it's Grindhouse style. You can see where Eddie went in the After Effects and definitely made it grainy and scratchy. I think that really lends a lot and helps with the special effects, in particular the digital effects that I had mentioned. You almost feel dirty after having watched it, and that's certainly a compliment. I think that there's really a lot to like about this film. Again, a lot of points have to be given to these guys. You know, they didn't have a lot of money. You know, they didn't have access to top-notch actors, but I feel like the performances were right where they needed to be. Everyone, I thought, turned in an admirable performance. The location is absolutely creepy. I thought, again, as I mentioned, the effects were really good as well. This is certainly not going to be a film that's going to appeal to horror fans on all levels, but if you like something that's down and dirty, you know, that's not afraid to pull any punches, especially in the beginning murder sequence, this is definitely a film that you need to check out. Overall, I would give the film a 3 out of 5. Like I said, when you read reviews online, a lot of people would say that that's too high, but where I was going with all of that is for first-time filmmakers, these guys didn't just talk about it. They went out, they did it, they got it done, and it's funny to watch both versions of the film, not like ha-ha funny, but you look at how much they shot, how much footage they made, and they basically made 2 movies that have overlapping elements but tell the story in a different way. And to me, that part is really intriguing, and I have to give Eddie a lot of credit for that, because with all of that footage in 2 different cuts, he still conveys the story, the claustrophobic atmosphere, the fearfulness and the evil of the family that lives in the warehouse and what they're doing to these college students. As far as special features go, there were no special features on the Grindhouse version that I have. On the regular edition that I have, they do have a bunch of deleted scenes and an alternate opening, which I found to be very interesting as well. So there's definitely a lot to look at there. Of course, being younger filmmakers, I don't know if they had thought about doing a lot of behind the scenes and things like that. Those would have been nice things to have seen on the disc, but it's not an overall detriment to the project. I would give the overall disc, I love the cover art. It reminds me a lot of the 70s style Grindhouse filmmaking. The film clocks in at about 104 minutes, so it is a little long. People may feel that it drags a little bit at points, but I feel like it's a great overall product. I would give the overall disc presentation a 6 out of 10. Now, you can certainly pick this film up. I had asked Eddie about this. You can go to www.hellweek.net. They only have a limited amount of copies of this left, and you want to go ahead and get a hold of this because, like I said, with Scarred coming out, people are really going to start to be looking at Fright Tech Pictures and what Eddie and Don are doing. These are going to become collector's editions. Get these while they are still available. Share it with your friends. I think he said there's less than 100 left. So again, make sure to go to www.hellweek.net to pick up your copy of Eddie Fright and Fright Tech Pictures Hellweek. Fun watch. Watch it with your friends. Drink beers. Do whatever it is you do to relax, but have fun watching it. Coming up in 5 minutes, we are going to have our feature interview with the fine people from The Wicked Within. But before that, we're going to go into our second Metal Massacre song. The name of the band is DragonForce. The CD is Maximum Overload. The song is The Game.
Nevermore, told me it's alright.
DragonForce from their most recent CD, Maximum Overload. The name of the song was The Game. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for our feature interview for the evening. We are discussing After Dark Horrorfest, 8 films to die for, The Wicked Within. And we are going to be joined by producer and actor William Macnamara, producer and actor Gianni Capaldi, and actor Heath Freeman. Gentlemen, how are we with this evening?
We're good, bud. How are you?
Good.
Good, good. Who have I got right now?
This is Heath.
I've got Heath.
And you've got Gianni on the line as well.
Okay, so we're still waiting on William. Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for being on. You know, I've been doing my research on A Wicked Within. After Dark has been very guarded with sending screeners out, so I've had to do all of my research and watch trailers and things like that. But while I'm normally not the kind of guy who is into the whole spiritual possession type film, the trailer alone just absolutely made my skin crawl. For you guys, you know, how did you first get involved with this project? And Gianni, let's start with you.
It started off with I read a script, and the script was very chilling, and it was the kind of thing that I thought that it'd be great to get it on screen. So, you know, once I gathered with Enzo and Sienna, and we discussed it all about doing the movie together, and you know, we said we would, and you know, we did everything we can to make it happen. So, but yeah, it's very, very chilling. It's a chilling tale, and it's not just your normal possession type movie where things happen for the sake of show. So there's a tale to everything. You know, I felt that it was slightly different. So
yeah, it definitely has a gripping presence to it. Like I said, just from watching the trailer. Heath, how about you? What were your thoughts when you were presented with the script and asked to be a part of the film?
Well, the thing is like I was fortunate that you know, Gianni brought me in. You know, he, like everyone that worked on the picture, like everyone was really old friends. Like everyone had known each other for a very long time, and that's the kind of guy Gianni is. Like he can, you know, he brings in all his friends around him, and I was fortunate enough to be a part of that. You know, toward the end, you know, I was probably the last role that was cast, and you know, I came into a wonderful family in that, and that's thanks to Gianni. But same time, I've never played an exorcist before, so I've never had my eyes bleed before. So no, it was phenomenal. I mean, it was, you know, we shot in a lot of, most of it was in one location, so we all got to know each other very fast and very well, you know, in a very short period of time, you know, and you know, I was just graced to work with some fucking amazing actors, you know, like Gianni and like Enzo and, you know, Sienna and Michelle, and it was a damn pleasure.
I mean, for sure. And, you know, I wanted to say for the fans out there listening, Gianni, we really want to say thank you because you're over in Scotland doing this interview, and I know it's much later over in Scotland, so we really appreciate you taking the time to come on with the big time difference.
Yeah, it's I think 1:30 in the morning right now here. So.
Oh man, you are a trooper, but it is really appreciated. This is one of the films that my listeners were really hyped about when I said that we were going to be having people on from this film, and you know, you wore two hats on this film. Not only were you an actor, but you're also a producer on the film. Kind of talk about when you got involved with the project, How was that for you, being involved not only in front of the screen but also being involved behind the camera?
Well, it's something that I think Heath did as well in his movie prior to Wicked Within. But it's the kind of thing where in between takes you're talking to this guy and you're checking the schedule for the next day, and you've always got your eye on your watch and the clock to make sure that things are moving along and you're getting the shots as you need. So, unfortunately, you have to switch off from being an actor, and then, you've got to be the producer, and then sometimes the producer's not always the good guy on the set, and you've got to make some calls and whatnot. So
he was a great guy on set. Don't let him fool you. He was a great guy on set.
I've been on that end. I've done a little bit of producing work, not certainly as much as you guys have, but you're right about that. And with Heath had brought up the fact that you guys all knew each other and had worked together before. Do you, when you have to don both hats like that, Gianni, does it make it a little bit harder sometimes when you're working with friends, when you have to go from that actor side to that producer side?
Yeah, it does. Because even just saying to an actor, we got to hurry up, or you're saying to the director, you got 1 minute you're listening to the director's direction, and the next minute you're saying to the director, we got to move it. So it gets a little bit awkward sometimes, and then you always get the odd disagreement on set, but you just got to get it done. And the people were just fantastic, though, to work with. The crew were really, really good. We had some really, really talented individuals in that crew, and everybody did their best to develop and produce what they could at the end of the day, and it was a collective effort on everybody's behalf. From makeup to special effects to lighting, everybody just. Our DP was fantastic. Tom Calloway was fantastic. The director, Jay Alaimo, was fantastic. And the performances were just amazing. I mean, Heath was really, really good in this. I mean, when you see what he had to fight, and the beast in Sienna that she brought to the table, for the good has to be equal to the bad. So Heath's fight with the evil side was just amazing. So when you get to see it,
listen, we Johnny, like I said before, Johnny created like an amazing cast. Like everybody that was and crew, everybody that was there was, I was honored to work with. So and what's cool about making those kind of pictures is that it's such a group effort to get it done, to make the days, and like we're all in it together, and it creates a bit of symbiosis when you do a picture like that, because no one's out for like any kind of a selfish reason. Like we're just trying to get it on film, trying to get the scenes done, and I couldn't be happier to work with such an amazing crew and cast.
Now, Heath, you've done producing work as well, and on this one you were doing acting, but can you kind of expound a little bit on what Gianni said? You've been in that position to where you've been producer and you've been an actor. For you on the acting end this time, how is it for you when you guys are so close and someone like Gianni has to go from that acting position to that producer position? Is it easy for you because you guys have that history and you know what goes into it?
No, I knew what Gianni was going through, and like let him have it. It's like I've done it. Like I don't want to do it. I was like, I know what you're going through. I'm not saying that it's. I was happy that someone else was going through it and not me. Because it is a total pain in the ass. Like 100%, and I'm writing another picture right now, and I was thinking about it, and like my partner was like, "Do you want to direct this?" Or I was like, "No, I don't want to direct it. No way. I don't want to like." He's like, "Well, you're producing it." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm producing it." I'm like once I get there, I'm not producing anymore. Like you don't, like I don't want to wear any hats when I'm on set, but that's what Gianni had to do. Like he had to do it all, and like I did not envy him. Is the short answer, I should say.
It definitely adds another element when you wear several hats working on a production. Now, Gianni, for you, and mentioning, of course, that you did that for this film, how much you always have a certain amount of pride as an actor when you finish a product and it gets picked up, and you guys get the critical praise and audiences love what you've done. But when you wear multiple hats, when you have to do several things on set, how much more satisfaction, how much more pride does that give you when you've done more than one position on the same film?
That's a good question.
Yeah. Well, I think that at the end of the day, it's a double pleasure, because when you go as an actor and you watch yourself on screen as an actor, you think, okay, you do that whole selfish acting thing where you kind of look at yourself and you become really, really autocritical, and you think, well, I should have done this, I should have done that. But when you're also producing the movie, it's like you lose that autocritical side just as the actor, but then you start looking at things like, that could have been lighter, the music could have been stronger there, and it's like you start to appreciate everything that goes into the movie, whether it's a color correction, whether it's sound and the music and the Foley. There's so many tiny details you start to appreciate and you become critical of. So, the satisfaction level is, magnified from just, a single actor to covering all single bases. I mean, did you find that on your film before, Heath?
Yeah, I remember when I was doing Skateland, and I was a pretty hands-on producer, and I wrote that picture. Two, I remember my brother and Anthony Burns, they right when we started shooting, they this is just from the day-to-day on set stuff. As being a producer on set, as an actor, trying to turn into that different role and take the producer hat off. They were like, you can't worry about anything else. Concentrate, and that's it. And then of course, through the whole picture, when it's done, I guess it's gratifying. To tell you the truth, I don't know why I make movies anymore. It's just a pain in the butt. But there's some small gratification. It's a pain in the ass. It's making movies is really, 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 really fucking hard. That's all I get.
Well, I'm glad that you said that,
really
because the majority of the people that I've had on and the films that I've covered so far for the 8 Films to Die For, they've been relatively new filmmakers. So for a lot of them, the process is still very new, very exciting, and they all have said, yes, you get tired, you get this, you get that, but you guys have several projects under your belt. You've done several films, you've worn many hats. Kind of talk about that for a second. How physically draining it is to put out a product like this.
Did you know that Gianni is actually 28 years old? He's
really?
aged so much during this whole process.
I aged about 7 years during that one movie.
He used to be so handsome.
You guys are terrible.
I don't know, Gianni, go ahead, buddy. You've made more pictures than I have, so.
Well, yeah, he said something about when you get to set, you don't wear any hats. I think after Wicked Within, that was my philosophy. And then, when I think I produced 4 films in about 10 months, space of 10 months. And, they were all...
Which is insane, by the way.
Yeah, it is.
It was. Yeah, and my life came to a halt. But every time you get to set, as he said, you get everything ready, you get everybody in line, and then you just stop. And then it's like, okay, line producer, there you go, and I'm just an actor, and you enjoy yourself, and you just concentrate on your craft, and that's it. and then once it's all in the can, then you can sit down, you can have a look at it and all that stuff. But exactly what he said, you learn, but it's like a school. I mean, you the first one you do every single detail, and you're involved in every single detail. But I just don't think it's productive to try and wear every single hat. Jack of all trades, master of none. I think at the end of the day, you just wear yourself right into the ground, and I think you could do it once or twice, but I think if you had to keep doing it, you would probably be dead. That's not an understatement.
No, you're right. I mean, that's like the smart man surrounds himself with smarter people than him that can do those jobs better than you. So why wear all those hats?
I'll give it to you.
If you can.
The first film I worked on, I did producing, I did makeup effects, and I did acting, and it was, when you get into it, it's that whole dream of, I'm making something, I'm doing something that I've always wanted to do, and then at the end of the day, you're like, what the fuck did I get myself into? When you realize just how much, a lot of people don't realize how much effort and time and energy goes into making a product. So, I definitely applaud you guys for everything that you've done. Now, we're going to jump track just for a second. Gianni had been messaging me earlier in the day, and, we had a little bit of a snafu with IMDb and things like that, and something that one of the listeners had wanted me to ask you guys was, I listed certain films that you guys were, known for, and, Gianni had mentioned other films that you guys had worked on, and the reason that I picked the things that I did was, of course, being a horror podcast, I wanted to highlight where you guys had worked in the genre. But Heath, you had mentioned Skateland, and Gianni had mentioned that's, when it comes to you, that's the film that we should mention, and everything that went into that. Tell us about Skateland being your breakthrough film, and having worked on something like that and everything that you've done on TV, like NCIS and Bones, what really attracted you to a horror project such as The Wicked Within?
I did Dark Was the Night. I think that came out a few months ago. It's with Kevin Durant and Lucas Haas. I know the genre. I love the genre. I think the horror genre is one of my favorite of all time. I watched American Werewolf in London the other night because some girl had never seen it, and I was like, "You got to see this. This is like a groundbreaking special effect. This is the shit." It's like a perfect horror movie, and I love it, and I knew the filmmakers, when they came to my manager, he was just like, you should do this, you should get to know these guys, and you'll be friends with these guys, and that's what's cool about doing pictures like this. Like, I walked away and I created some new friends that I'm going to have forever.
Right.
As far as Skateland goes, I don't know. I think it's like I said before. When you like your first movie going out, I think you have to be completely crazy doing it in the first place and getting into it and then living with it. Because when you really come up with an idea and then you take it, especially with a picture, you're in bed with it for 5 years, 4 or 5 years. You really have to like that idea, because you're stuck with it,
right.
And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And I think that's the big thing that people don't realize is that when you are actually producing or producing, acting, writing, whatever, if you're actually going to commit to a picture, you're going to live with that thing for 3 to 5 years, man. You got to see it a lot of times, and you're going to be sick of it. So
that's very true. Now, Gianni, for you,
Gianni. Sorry.
Now, Gianni, for you, some of the other films that I wanted to mention that you had brought to my attention was Hard Rush, Blood of Redemption, and Certain Justice, and I noticed that in those films, certainly more action-oriented, and you worked with Dolph Lundgren on several films. You know, do you prefer working in action-style films as opposed to working in horror? And, you know, we kind of touched upon you coming on with The Wicked Within, but, you know, what are your thoughts on the horror genre and working in the horror genre as well?
Well, we did 3 movies back to back to back, and it was myself, Dolph, and Vinnie Jones, and all 3 of us did all 3 movies, and I think there was a 5 or 6 month, I think it was a 6-month gap. It was 2 months. It was shooting and then a month and a half off, and shooting and a month and a half off on each film. And it was good to get on because you get to know each other, and you know, the action thing, you get to work with a stunt coordinator, and it's good. It's like a machine. But you know, the one thing about horror, well, especially Wicked Within, which the action movies don't really have, is I feel that it has a little bit. It's a deeper. The horror movie has more. It's a deeper. I would like to say meaning, and it's deeper. Action movies usually are, you know, it's the same guidelines over and over again, whether it's a revenge movie or, you know, someone's brother got killed or someone's wife is kidnapped, or, you know, it's just the same plot line over and over again. But I think with the horror movies, a lot of times, whether they follow biblical messages or whether they follow moralistic messages, I feel that it's a lot deeper, and you can. I think it's more of an emotional drain on you, to be honest with you. So that was the one difference, you know. And everything's different, so it's not like I have a favorite or not, but
right.
But yeah, it's different.
Now, Heath, I had wanted to ask you. You know, when you watch the trailer, you know, the character you play, Father Patrick, he doesn't come across as the everyday regular priest, especially in appearance and what appears to be attitude. When you went in and you know, I don't know if you actually auditioned or if the part was straight written for you, you know, how were you approached about how they wanted Father Patrick played, and, you know, did you do any kind of in-depth research into religion, into exorcism, or anything like that for the role?
Well, I mean, Gianni just let me, and you know, of course, Jay as well, you know, but they kind of let me do, I mean, they let me do what I wanted, and they wanted him to be, you know, a progressive priest, you know, because not a lot of priests do exorcisms, you know, that's
right,
and it's a part of Catholicism they don't like to talk about. So they wanted him to be younger. They wanted him to be kind of not I shouldn't say hip, but they wanted him to be a little more understanding. Yeah, I mean, like I said, you know, I mean, my research going into it is, I mean, basically horror movies. I mean, I've seen The Exorcist probably 1,000 times. I've seen, you know, everything. I mean, I can't really. I didn't really have the opportunity to go and talk to any young hip Catholic priests that are doing exorcisms in LA. So,
right.
They gave me free reign, you know, and that's all you can ask from, you know, a good director, and, you know, and a great producer. Great producer and actor.
He was probably one of the most attractive Catholic priests around. So much so, I think we had about 50 girls convert themselves to Catholicism after watching Heath as a priest. So.
Oh, come on.
Heath, you had talked about, you know, The Exorcist, which of course still to this day is probably the pinnacle of religious horror films, and unfortunately, I don't know if you guys have seen the news, they are just hell-bent on remaking that film. That's a whole nother discussion. But it seems like the supernatural horror film has been a staple of the industry for the last 10 years or so. You know, I know you said that you were given free rein for your character and everything, but what are your thoughts on, you're such a fan of the classics like The Exorcist. What are your thoughts on how many possession films and exorcism films we see these days, and what do you think that the film offers that sets itself apart from everything else that we've seen in that subgenre these days?
Is that for Heath?
For Heath, yes, please. Well, Heath might be experiencing technical difficulties. Well, let me turn that. You there, Heath?
Sorry. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
What's interesting is that it deals with. I mean, when you're talking about like an actual demon, in theory, I should say, like it infiltrates how you think, and it infiltrates this family, this group of friends, and it sways them. It sways them to do things. It's when you're actually talking about like demonic influence. Is what you're talking about is like if I had a pistol next to me, I would pick it up. I mean, the pistol's next to me, but like a demon would sway me to pick it up and shoot my friend next to me. Like that's
right.
And that's kind of what it deals with. It's like that action of going to the dark side. And that's what I think is interesting about this and about this picture, because like everyone is influenced by it. Not only the person that's actually possessed, but everyone is influenced by it. If that makes any sense.
It does. Now, for you, Gianni, kind of the same thing, but how do you feel The Wicked Within separates itself from the glut of exorcism possession films that we've seen over the last 10 years?
Well, first off, I think that it's a tale. It's a moralistic tale, and there's a clear message behind it. And without giving too much away, it's a battle between in Christianity, you have on one side you have God, and the other side you have the devil or Satan, whatever you want to call it. And back in the book of the Bible, they used to challenge each other. So you had the fight, for instance, when you had the subject of Job, and Job had everything, and he was a God-loving man, and the devil basically said, let's see if he's still going to love you if everything goes wrong, and they had this challenge amongst themselves, and it's the kind of thing that starts getting you thinking, where was that a one-off, or is this something that's repeated throughout history? And so it's a kind of thing that I think Wicked Within, it's actually meaningful, and once after you watch it, you understand, and you'll think to yourself, well, is there other circumstances in life that this is actually going on? And it's, you've got your young priest, you've got your, it's not your old traditional Italian Roman Catholic priest. It's more in today's world, and it's a normal family. There's nothing different. These guys could be the guys that live next door to you, and I think that's what's different about Wicked Within. That the whole Exorcist thing is a great movie, and it's very traditional. But I think Wicked Within now takes it to the house next door, and it could be the house next door to you. Is Job, the next challenge of Job, could that be next door to your house right now? Could that be going on this very second? And I think that's thought-provocative, and I think that's what Wicked Within brings to the table.
I like it. And we're now being joined by associate producer and actor William Macnamara. William, welcome to the show.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
oh, yes, we can hear you.
Oh, wow. Okay. Hopefully the video's not on, right? Because I'm actually in a motel, and I don't have any clothes on. So I'm not sure how to do the Skype thing.
No, there is no video unless anyone's watching your stream. So I think we're good on that.
Okay. What happened was my clothes got wet. And we're shooting in Pomona. And so I have to be here. But I didn't know how to do anything but the Skype. And I just don't want to appear naked on Skype.
That's just to me, buddy. That's just to me. I see you.
You see me?
Yeah.
I can see you, Billy.
It's the wrong number, man. It's the wrong number. Always.
Well, William, let me ask you, as I've just asked Gianni and Heath, you know, everything I've seen about the film so far, absolutely stunning. Like I had mentioned in the beginning, I'm usually not one who gets too much into the religious exorcism possession type film, but there's just something about the atmosphere of this film that just gripped me. You know, in your opinion, what is it that you feel separates The Wicked Within from everything else in this subgenre that we've seen over the last 10 years?
Well, I can actually speak from experience, unfortunately. I actually went through my own personal I had an exorcism done by that Reverend Larson in Scottsdale, Arizona, about 4 or 5 years ago. And I have to say, Johnny's movie, when I watch it and I see the whole thing going on with Sienna, it brings back, it gives me goosebumps. It's so realistic. And it was so realistic. I can't even watch the movie without having, terrible, terrible flashbacks of my exorcism.
Now, you mentioned Sienna. That was, one of the things when I was watching that trailer is I think a lot of the problems that I have and that certain people have with these types of films is it tends to be a lot of actors and actresses tend to, I don't know if overact is the word that I want, because, when you study what exorcism is, and demons and things like that, it is something that takes control of someone, that makes them do something that they normally wouldn't do. But there was just something about, you could see a certain calmness about her, but in her eyes you could see that underlying, if you just want to use the word evil, that inhabited her character. For all of you, how was it working with her, and what was it about her in particular that you cast her in this role? And we'll start with you, William, on that one.
Well, I didn't have anything to do with the casting, but I think that Sienna was well cast. I think she's naturally a very evil person. Just kidding. She's a lovely, lovely, lovely woman, but she is a fantastic actress. I have to say, I just think that she's a very, I can't stand it. All those British actors are so much better than American actors. It drives me nuts. She's just organically a good actress. And she didn't, like you said, she didn't overact. Even though I think, like you said, with an exorcism, I think we get, the demons get inside us actors, and we all, we actually start overacting all over the place. But she held back, and it makes her performance all the more interesting. And I'm sure Johnny would agree that she is a fabulous actress. She's so good, right, Johnny?
Yeah, she's extremely good, extremely good.
I just wish that the Scottish actors were as good as the English actors, It's just like
yeah, unfortunately,
yeah. That's my 2 cents.
The thing with that is when you watch her performance, and again, I can only go by what I've seen in the trailer and what I've read, with you guys as actors, how is it trying to act against something like that? Like I said, her presence on the screen is just, it comes across muted but powerful at the same time, and when you're watching her do what she's doing on the film, what kind of emotions did that put you guys through as actors watching that?
Johnny?
Well, it's chilling for us too as well when you're in the room with someone, because you really do believe that there's something wrong with her. Possession, there's a lot of actors that get into method and whatnot, but I mean, if I said to you that strange things started happening on set, then, and they actually did. Strange things did actually happen on set. And I kind of think that Sienna's performance was just an epitome of everything that was going on. She was just brilliant. I think that's her best performance. When you watch her do the movies, the Resident Evil movies, they don't come close to her performance in this.
Right.
It's that whole action thing again. There's no, I just don't believe that the depth in the Resident Evil, it doesn't allow her. Whereas this one, I think this was her best performance ever as an actress. So, and she is English, so the English actors are better than the Scots.
How about you, William?
What? What's the question?
I said, well, what was it like watching her on set and having, to act against that? I mean, when you, like I said, believability is it's a hard word to use in that, but I mean, it's when you watch that trailer, when you see the scenes of her, it's like you really believe that that's what's going on. How haunting was that for you to see as an actor on the set with that?
Well, like I said before, I mean, it's for an actor when we're working, we know it's not real. So for us to watch that kind of actor do the work they're doing, it's exciting for us. We actually enjoy it. I mean, it looks really scary in the movie, but when we're working with these actors that are so good, it's exciting. I'm actually having such a good time working with them that so I'm not scared at all, and it doesn't give me the creeps or anything like that. It's just, for me, it's a lot of fun, and working on the movie is a lot of fun. And the scarier, the better, in my opinion. I wasn't sure how to approach her after I saw her do some of the work in the living room. I kind of kept my distance from her. So I think Johnny and everybody else has a better relationship with her than I did, because she was very intense. She's an intense person. What can I say?
Now, Heath, for you, I really feel like your insight on this will be really interesting, because you play the priest in the film. When your character has an interaction with her when she's possessed, and the discussions that go on between her and her possession and you as the priest, how intense were those scenes for the two of you working together?
Well, I was just trying to get out the lines from the script. I thought I memorized them, and I didn't memorize them that well, I guess. So, she was amazing. I mean, she outclassed all of us. Yeah, she was great. I mean, but
go ahead.
I mean, even working with Michelle Hicks, who's a phenomenal actress. So, my scenes with her were amazing. I mean, like I said, everyone on set was phenomenal, and that's a credit to Gianni. So,
now, one of the big things is of course the film has been picked up for the After Dark Horrorfest 8 Films to Die For, and that series has a great tradition of putting out horror films that catch the imagination and that fans really wind up loving. Gianni, first for you, kind of talk about when you found out that After Dark was picking up the series. How exciting was that for you? I mean, that's a lot of horror films today kind of get lost in the shuffle, but when you're part of After Dark, you're getting a big PR campaign behind it. You're getting October 16th. There's the big screening all around the U.S. Kind of talk about how that whole dynamic of when you found out you guys were being picked up for it.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, most indie films, we get a domestic release, or we do our own foreign, DVD, straight to video, then that's great, whatever. It's good. But when Courtney Solomon comes on and says, this is one of the scariest movies I've seen, then, this is the guy behind American Haunting. This is a guy that knows his genre. And he singles Wicked Within Now and says it's fantastic, then, you go, oh, good, finally someone actually gets to see it. And and appreciates it. So, you know, and they wanted to give it a theatrical, and you know, we've been given a number of cities across the states for it to be. They've given us a great premiere, and I think it's either the 16th or the 18th at Universal City Walk in LA. I mean, for an actor, we're going to be able to go there and enjoy it in a big movie theater in our hometown where we live and we work, and you know, and people who are in the industry are going to be able to come and see it. We can bring our friends and our family. You know, it's fantastic. It's what you want, you know, and you can do 100 movies, but then Courtney Solomon's never going to say, this is one of the scariest movies I've seen. It has to be theatrical. So when we found that out, it was ecstatic, and it's the kind of thing that you don't want to tell everybody yet until it's 100% written down and signed and sealed. So we kind of kept it hush, and then I remember sending a message to Heath saying some news coming soon, but until it was like 100% confirmed, I just didn't want to jinx it at all. So it's great. And you know, the editor on this movie was the same editor as the guy from The Hostel, George Folsey Jr. He's a really nice guy, and he knows his stuff. And thanks to George, who really put his heart and soul into this movie and editing. You know, I think he was one of the great guys to get it there. And the composer was fantastic, Ali Helmline, who has won many awards. It's a collective effort. Like, everything's a collective effort, you know, and that's what makes this special. And I'm looking forward to going up to this premiere and seeing everybody, and Heath and Billy and everybody, and just, you know, we can just have a day out and we can just enjoy.
Now, Heath, for you, you know, when Gianni got a hold of you and told you that, you know, After Dark is picking this up, 8 films to die for, you know, what was your initial response, and, you know, what do you think of all the press and the publicity that the film is getting?
Well, first I said, finally. You know, and then I said, thanks for the hard work. No, I mean, but, listen, Gianni worked so damn hard on this picture. Like, he, you know, not only as a, you know, as a producer, but as an actor. Like, when he was, you know, on, like we said before, like the hats that he wore. And I think Gianni's great in it, and it's going to showcase him as an actor as well. And I'm thrilled. You know, I just went through this with another horror picture I did. So it's and the genre's fun. You know, and the fans are fun. The press surrounding it's fun. So I'm happy to be a part of something again. It's, you know, like in the same vein. You know, I mean, everyone loves horror. So.
Now, definitely. Now, William, for you, one of the films that I had wanted to bring up is, you know, you had the opportunity back in 1987. You got to work with Dario Argento in Opera. You know, and that film has certainly gained a cult status over the years and is a fan favorite. And I really think that The Wicked Within is going to be another one of those films that's really going to garner a cult audience, and a film that people are going to be talking about for a long time. You know, not being a stranger to a film that's a cult favorite, you know, what was your initial reaction to finding out that After Dark had picked up the series, and what are your thoughts on, you know, all of the media attention and what people are saying around the world about this film?
Well, I want to make a correction. It actually wasn't 1987. I wasn't even born in 1987. I did the Dario movie in about 1999.
Boy, IMDb is just making me look bad today.
I'm kind of kidding with you. I'm kind of kidding with you. I hate to refer. It's so funny. I'm working with Tom Sizemore right now in a movie, and he keeps introducing me to everybody as the best-looking actor from the 1980s. And I keep telling the asshole, I'm like, dude, I wasn't acting in the 1980s. Cut it out. So sorry. When you said 1987, it's probably right. But I hate to admit that I was working in 1987. But no, this This is a lot of fun. The Dario Argento thing was a lot of fun too, and I at the time I didn't really know who Dario Argento was, and I couldn't predict that movie was going to be a huge hit in Europe. I had no idea until later on, and the same thing with Gianni. I didn't have any idea the movie. When you're making a movie, it's hard to tell how it's going to turn out. And like Gianni said, they had a great editor. Thanks to me, I think, but they had a really good editor who did a really good job with the movie, and the director's great. Everybody's great. So you don't know. We're hoping this is going to be a cult classic. I guess the audiences will decide in October, but this has the potential to be a really big movie. So that's the exciting part. And Dario Argento, I don't even know if he's still making movies or not. I see his daughter every once in a while.
Oh, no kidding. It's been a couple of years since Dario's put anything out. I'm always holding my breath that he'll put something else out there. But I just found it to be really fascinating that you got to work with him. He's one of those guys that has definitely inspired the genre, and to work with him, I can only imagine what that was like.
Well, it was crazy too. I was so new at it, and I didn't know what was going on. I was very new, and I should have known something was up. And they weren't using any sound guy on the movie. So later on, when I did see it, I noticed they did dub me. Some good English actor dubbed me.
Now, I wanted to ask, because several of the other films in the After Dark series have had small screenings in other places. Have you guys had the opportunity to screen The Wicked Within anywhere else yet?
No, we signed a deal saying that we would give the premiere to After Dark.
Okay. Now, with all of the success that comes with this, I've asked everyone that's done all of the other After Dark films so far, is this movie left open for a sequel? And if there is a sequel, of course, not knowing what happens to anyone's character, would you guys be on board for a second The Wicked Within?
That's a question you're going to have to ask after you watch the movie. Some of us might not be in a position to answer that.
Right. Now, one of the things I always wanted to do... What's that?
Without giving too much away.
Oh, certainly. I don't want you guys to give any of the plot point away. Now, one of the other things that I've asked the other directors is, working on location. The house that you guys worked in certainly added a certain ambiance to the film as well. Can you tell us a little bit about the location that you shot in?
It was actually a magician's house. And it was a very old house. And it was very, very old Hollywood. And it had secret passages. It had hidden doors. It was very creepy as it is. And I believe that the house with the beautiful old wooden floors actually became a character in the movie. Whether it was an old grandfather clock or whether it was just the ambience that it created. But it set the tone. And yes, a lot of horror movies nowadays use, toys or clowns with symbols and all this stuff, but it's been done, it's been played. But old houses have, they have soul, I believe, and they have character. And, as I said, even if it's just a grandfather clock or the chime, an old chime, then that's what this house really brought to the table when you watch it.
Now, of course, like I said, I just think from everything I've read and everything that I've seen, the film will certainly achieve a certain status. And, we kind of talked about what sets the film apart from the rest of the possession-style films that we have seen released over the last 10 years. And for each one of you, Gianni, we'll start with you, after people see this film, what is it that you hope the fans take away from watching this film?
Well, this isn't just a gore movie. This movie really has a meaning behind it, and it's thought-provocative. And it's when we're all sitting in our houses and we all think we're safe and we're watching the TV at night, this could be happening next door,
Right.
And I believe if you believe in God, then this is definitely something that can be happening next door. It's an incident that's happened in the Bible, and it didn't, and it's a continuous battle between good and evil, and we talk about Sienna being so amazing in this film, and she is the force of evil in this movie, but Heath was the force of good in this movie, and his performance was just really, 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 really strong. And then you have the voice of reason, and that's where Billy came in. The voice of reason. Oh, okay, so you said that the chair flew across the room. Well, was there water on the floor? And that's where Billy comes into this. He's the voice of reason and trying to figure out the logical explanation. A lot of people, we all know spirits are there. We all know demons are there. And we know that they're powerful creatures. And if we believe in angels, we've got to believe in demons. It's just the good and bad side of it. But there's always a voice of reason within herself. And it's when you start doubting that and you say to yourself, hang on a minute, let's put the most obvious reason aside. Could there be another reason why this happened? And that's what it's all about. And that's what this movie's going to do to you. So the next time you're sitting in your house alone, that's what it's going to do to you. You're going to start thinking, well, was that a noise? Was it the radiators, or was it the hot water, the boiler or something, or was it really something else? And that's what this movie will. You won't stay in the house alone at night.
Heath, how about for you? What is it that you hope after fans see this film that they take away from it?
Hopefully they'll think I'm still a decent actor. No, I just, when you make a movie like this, you want to, hopefully we'll scare the hell out of them, And I think even I can't talk too much about it because I don't want to give anything away, like Gianni says. Yeah, that's it. Hopefully it's, it will scare the hell out of them. I mean, that's the whole point, isn't it?
Now, William, how about for you?
Well, yeah, scary movies are fun, and there's a dark side, that there's demons when you live in Hollywood, because you deal with demons almost every day. Agents, managers, casting directors, these are the demons, and they're real, trust me, and they're scary. So no, the movie's a metaphor for life, like Gianni said. It's right out of the Bible. It's a metaphor for life, and there's the good and there's the evil. And when you let the evil into your life, when you pay attention to it, you acknowledge it. That's where the trouble begins, and that's what happened in the movie. I think tiny little things were happening in the beginning, and they let it take over their entire lives, and terrible things happen. Terrible, terrible things happen. I think the movie's going to be very scary. I love scary movies. So I think as we know in America, audiences love scary movies. The audience is going to be delighted with fear with this movie.
Now, Gianni, one of the things that you had mentioned, and I think it was a good point that you brought up. This is not a gory film. It's not blood running down the walls. Ankle deep with chainsaws and axes. I wanted to say, one of the things, being a practical special effects artist, is a lot of times I have trouble when you see digital effects on the screen and it just takes you right out of the suspension of disbelief. In the trailer, there was one scene in particular that I saw, and it's really what set the hair on my arms up, was the scene where Sienna's character, where she turns her head all the way around, and it just looked so real. Can you talk for a few moments about the special effects in the film and the decision not to be a horrifically bloody film?
So basically, we were very, very lucky because a gentleman up in Canada called Dennis Berardi, which is Mr. X, they do all the special effects for Resident Evil, every single one of them. and he fell in love with this movie, and he fell in love with the actors, and he thought this was an amazing. He wanted to make this a passion play, and he did. And they brought every trick they could to the table, and obviously the spinning head was taken from The Exorcist, and Sienna's basically making fun of it, and she's basically saying is when my head spins around, and she gets fucked with a crucifix, or and it's taken straight out of The Exorcist. And so it's that old image where they created this amazing. I mean, her eyes go up into the back of her head. She's just. I mean, I don't want to give too much away, but they pulled out all the stops for the special effects in this, and I think that it just adds. And see, that's what I was talking about before with the old horror movies. When you said, well, what's the difference between this one and the older ones? Well, we're not following the old regime. In fact, we're actually making fun of the old movies. And, if you think vomiting is scary, then great. But it's not really scary, vomiting, But it makes fun of it. And I think the mind is more powerful than anything. And the minute, it's like Billy said, the minute you start believing in something, that's when you give power to it. And that's when that starts to grow. So, that's what's more scary about this movie. It's saying, listen, you want to ignore this in life? There, it's there. It exists. But the minute you start believing in it, that's when the shit can hit the fan.
Yeah, like I said, as a guy who does practical effects, what I saw, digitally, it was so stunning to me how realistic and lifelike it looked, and I'm glad to see that. You guys didn't. It seems like a lot of independent films, a lot of lower studio films, just they don't care, and when you watch it, it takes away from that belief element. And I really think that you guys took great care and effort to make sure that your effects looked right. So I give you guys a lot of credit on that. Well, like I said, the film comes out October 16th here in the States. You guys talked about getting together for the premiere and things like that, and I wish you guys all of the greatest success in the world with the release. But, now that the release is coming, before I let you guys go, William, let me start with you. Do you want to tell fans about any projects you have coming up, and if they want to follow you, social media, Facebook, anything like that, where they can follow your work?
Well, Facebook would be you can type me in Facebook, William Macnamara or Billy Macnamara, just as long as it's spelled right, McNamara, and they can find me on Facebook, on Twitter, pretty much anywhere. You just put my name into Google and it comes up, or they can find my Twitter and Facebook on my IMDb page, Internet Movie Database. And I actually, believe it or not, I have too many movies that I've finished recently to talk about. But they should all. I just finished a movie with Vivica Fox for Lifetime called The Wrong Roommate. I've got a movie called Opus of an Angel coming out, which is spectacular. And I'm doing a movie right now called I Believe with Tom Sizemore and who else? Jeremy London and that old guy. I can't remember that old guy's name. He's like 80. He's been 100,000 movies, but he's really old. In fact, I didn't even know he was still alive. Wilford Brimley, that's it. Anyway, go ahead, Johnny. What about you?
Well, I did a movie in Turkey called The Ghost of Garip, which is a vampire-based movie, which I think is great because the locations in Istanbul was fantastic. It's the first time I ever shot there. And then, I'm heading off to work with Peter Greenaway, which is a great director. So I'm excited about that. I'm working with the Michael Huisman from Game of Thrones on that one. So, but no, right now my focus is, Bite's coming out as well. Bite was a great movie that we shot in March. It's premiering at CJ's in Barcelona on the 9th of October. Right now just enjoying the premieres and getting ready to do the work again at the end of November. start November. So.
No, I have to ask. That vampire movie you're doing, they're not sparkly vampires, are they?
They're not sparkly vampires, no.
Thank God. Keith, how about for you?
I just produced the Jimi Hendrix picture that John Ridley he wrote and directed. I produced it. That's with Andre. John got the Oscar nod. He actually got the statue for 12 Years a Slave, the writer, and that came out earlier this year, and I'm writing another picture, so hopefully it doesn't suck. Yeah.
Well, guys, like I said, I want to thank you so much. I think that the film is going to do absolutely fantastic. I wish you guys success on everything that you do. Thank you for everything you've done so far. You know, it's very obvious that you guys have a passion for what you do and that you love what you do. So have fun at the premiere. Keep putting it out there. If you guys ever have any other info on your work, you know, you're always welcome on the podcast. If you have any more horror news, projects, you know, especially Gianni with what you have coming up, let me know. I'll put it out there on horrorsociety.com.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys.
All right.
And once again, ladies and gentlemen, that was our feature interview for the evening. We had, from the After Dark Horrorfest 8 Films to Die For, from the film The Wicked Within, we just had associate producer and actor William Macnamara, producer and actor Gianni Capaldi, and actor Heath Freeman. Make sure on October 16th, check your local cities to see if the 8 Films to Die For are playing in your area. If not, they will be available on demand. So make sure to check out The Wicked Within. Coming up in a few minutes, we're going to go into our second digital dismemberment spotlight for the evening, where we cover Scream Factory's Blu-ray release of James Rode's Gravy. But before that, we're going to go into our final Metal Massacre Spotlight for the evening. Once again, the band is DragonForce. The name of the song is Maximum Overload, and the song is Symphony of the Night.
Hiding in the fog, where darkness meets the moonlight, I will sing a melody till the morning comes. Living for you only, take my hand and show me there will be much sorrow when the morning comes. No one can understand me, I'm like a death to burn, the black is better love.
And welcome back. You just heard DragonForce from their CD, Maximum Overload. The name of the song was Symphony of the Night. Make sure to head on over to metalbladerecords.com. Find out the latest on DragonForce. See what their touring schedule will be. Pick up band merchandise and their CDs. Also find out about all of the other great bands on their label. There's plenty of great music, plenty of outstanding metal, all involved with Metal Blade Records. But now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time, once again, for some digital dismemberment.
Digital Dismemberment.
And in our second Digital Dismemberment Spotlight for the evening, we are covering Scream Factory's Blu-ray release of Gravy. This All Hallows Eve, dare to indulge in a late night of gluttony filled with unhinged humor, carnivorous terror, and high camp spills. From the vivid imagination of renowned actor, writer, producer, director James Roday comes the wickedly fun horror comedy Gravy, opening in cinemas, Los Angeles and New York, on October 2nd of this year and arriving on Blu-ray, DVD, digital HD, and across all major on-demand entertainment platforms October 6th of this year from Scream Factory. Directed by James Roday, of course from Psych, and written by Roday and Todd Harthan, Psych and Dominion, Gravy boasts an all-star assembled cast of Michael Weston from State of Play and Garden State, Jimmy Simpson from House of Cards, White House Down, Sutton Foster from Younger and Bunheads, Lily Cole of Snow White and the Huntsman, Molly Ephraim from Last Man Standing, Paul Rodriguez from Ali, Gabriel Luna from True Detective and Wicked City, Lotharia Bluto from Vikings and The Tudor, Ethan Sandler from The Bourne Supremacy and Crossing Jordan, Dual Hill from Ballers and Psych, and Gabri Sidibe from Empire and Precious, and of course, Sarah Silverman. It's Halloween night. A trio of costumed misfits with very special dietary requirements invades a Mexican cantina and forces the staff to engage in a late night of gluttony. The only caveat is what's on the menu and who will survive until morning. From director and co-writer James Roday, this deliriously demented horror comedy is a true feast for genre fans. Stuffed with an outstanding ensemble cast and perfectly seasoned with laughs and scares, you'll be sure to ask for seconds on Gravy. This, I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, highly, highly entertaining film. I didn't know what to expect really going in. I had heard briefly about the film a couple of times from outside sources, and I really thought it was, it sounded like an entertaining premise, but I wasn't really sure to where it was going to go. And I really, really enjoyed it. The black comedy humor involved. It certainly didn't skimp on the blood and the gore. There was just so much to like about this. The comedic genius that was involved. It's even where to begin. It's the film opens up with Roday going into a convenience store, and at first there's no one there, and he calls out, and Sarah Silverman is in there, and she's dressed in this bunny outfit. And she's afraid at first that she's upset the customer for not being at the register, and there seems to be like a budding romance between the two of them. and the guy's on his way to a Halloween party. Well, we cut to a Mexican restaurant, and you have the staff in there getting ready to close for the evening, and you have two of the main bad guys already there, the young lady in the cat outfit, and a guy kind of dressed up, you could argue was Peter Pan or, a medieval character. And, they're basically making out in the corner, and, as the suspense starts to build on what's going on, Gabourey's character, who plays a security officer, who's kind of funny listening to her and watching her throughout the film, she tells them to break it up, and there's the whole subplot of a guy who proposed to his girlfriend, and she turns him down. Well, he goes upstairs to the bathroom and stays in there for a while. Well, while all that's going on, the gentleman from the convenience store comes in dressed as a clown, and they take hostages of everyone that works in the restaurant. And it's they kind of make a game out of it, the whole comedic aspect of it. And they basically tell everyone that they're going to kill them and eat them, and they can earn, certain privileges along the way if they do play games. And like one of them is they do like the degrees of separation with Kevin Bacon, and they work all that in. I really think Lily Cole, who plays Mimi, steals the show a lot. Her character seems to be very vindictive, very psychotic, I guess is a good word. She's definitely very colorful, dressed in her cat outfit, and she starts the whole Grewfest off by biting out Gabourey's voice box when Gabourey won't stop talking shit to her while they're all tied up. Eventually, they're told that they could all be released if an apple is shot off the top of the owner of the restaurant's head, and instead he winds up shooting it through an orange in his mouth, and it basically impales him through the head. And then different gourmet meals are made from their bodies. And the chef of the restaurant, who's absolutely hysterical, is cooking up these different meals, but the whole time he's just talking stone cash shit to the people holding him hostage, and it's hysterically funny. So throughout the film, different things are done, and the one girl who's getting ready to leave to go be a paramedic winds up playing mind games with the clown. And she kind of, gets him to feel like she's falling for him, and they wind up sabotaging one of the meals because one of the guys is allergic to basil. And, the whole time the guy in the clown outfit is, talking with her about how Mimi's so damn crazy and not right for her brother. And there's actually quite an epic fight sequence between the three young ladies that are left. One of them winds up eventually being drowned in a giant fish tank. The makeup effects in this film are absolutely stunning. The film does not shy away on the gore. Hair is snatched off of people's scalps. You have arrows through the head, stabbings, people being strung up like pieces of meat and cooked. But at the same time, it's done with such an element of humor that it's not gross out horror. Maybe the grossest sequence might be where they make a game. They make a game out of trying to make them eat to the bone one of Gabourey's feet. But there's the humor throughout the film is pretty good. There's a really good fight sequence between Lothair Bluteau and Rhodey, and there's a whole broken arm sequence and a head in a fan sequence. There's a lot of laughs in this. It's definitely a morbid film. I think this would be a great double feature with a film like Delicatessen, for those of you that have not seen that, which deals with the underlying tones of cannibalism as well. The humor is spot on. Like I said, it's very much a black comedy. There's really a lot here to like with this film, and I think that the acting was superb. The location was great. There's really nothing about this film not to like. One of the things that's really interesting is the soundtrack to the film. There's a lot of songs in there that when you listen to it, you're almost like, what in the hell are they doing? But it really fits with the tone of the film. And I think fans are really, really going, to enjoy that. Overall, I would give the film itself a 4 out of 5. You definitely need to see this. It's very offbeat, very black, very dark humor. But the comedic aspects of it, along with the horror, it's not quite Evil Dead 2 style gore comedy, but it's definitely up there. As far as special features go, there's a commentary with James Rhodey, Sutton Foster, and Jimmy Simpson. There's a What is Gravy featurette. There's an electronic press kit and a trailer. It would have been cool to see a little bit more in terms of the special features, but again, at that point, you're really just splitting the hairs. This movie is hysterically funny. If you get a chance to go see it in the theater, if you're in LA or New York, get your ass to the theater and see this. I wish it was playing in a theater around here because I would certainly go see it. I thought it was that funny. Overall, I would give the disc a 7 out of 10. I would definitely love to have seen some more behind the scenes, a lot more in terms of interviews and things like that. I feel like there's a lot of ground, a lot of comedic gold that they really could have dug out of this and put onto the disc, but well worth picking up, well worth laughing at. Make sure to have your friends over. Do a barbecue, do a cookout. This could be one of those really fun party horror films to watch with your friends. Make sure to head on over to shoutfactory.com to pick up your Blu-ray copy of Gravy. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think it was another great night tonight on the Calling Hours Horror Podcast. I want to say thank you to Tatiana at After Dark Horrorfest, 8 Films to Die For getting our guests this evening from the film The Wicked Within. We had associate producer and actor William Macnamara on. We had producer and actor Gianni Capaldi on. And we also had actor Heath Freeman on. We want to say thank you to our friends at Screen Factory for sending our Blu-ray copy of Gravy over for watching. Thank you to our friends at SGL Entertainment, and thank you to Eddie Fright and Don Kilrain for sending our copy of Hellweek. Don't forget to visit www.hellweek.net. There are less than 100 copies of Hellweek left, and like I said, once Scarred hits the shelves, this is a film that people are going to be looking for, and you're not going to be able to find it. From just a pure collector standpoint, if nothing else, make sure to go and get your copy of Hellweek while you can still get a copy. We want to say thank you to our friends at Metal Blade Records for sending us DragonForce's new CD, Maximum Overload. Head on over to metalbladerecords.com to get the latest on all their bands, touring information, and everything that is going on with them. Make sure to keep an eye out for the new issue of Living Dead magazine, which should be hitting the shelves and mailboxes any time now. It's going to be a great issue. I love the cover work. I do a big write-up on the Necromantic series in there. You definitely want to check that out. And I also have a special feature interview with actress Michelle Tomlinson. It's definitely worth checking out. So head on over to livingdeadmagazine.com and order your copy of the new magazine today. Make sure to head on over to horrorsociety.com for the latest in independent horror news and some big budget stuff as well. Next week, we will continue on with the After Dark Horrorfest 8 Films to Die For. So until next week, this is your host, the Dead Man, Michael Jones of HorrorSociety.com and Living Dead Magazine, telling you all to rest in peace.